Welcome to the 2019 National Tourism Debate. We're in our final match of the semi-final round of the National Tourism Debate, and I'm your host, Janet Silvera. We would like to thank our location sponsor, the Iberostar Hotels and Resorts. Can I hear a round of applause, please? The National Tourism Debate was created by One Love Productions to engage high school students at an intellectual level so that they can be more knowledgeable of our tourism industry. The prizes include a National Tourism Debate Trophy, a scholarship, cash, and other prizes. This could not have been done without our kind sponsors. The Iberostar Hotel, S Hotel, Starbucks, Recruiting Panda, the Jamaica Observer, Angling Global, Jamaica Bookings and Events, Deja Resorts, R&R Complex, Ward's Auto Center, Rosal Great House, CGM Gallagher, Travel Meetings and Events, Kerry Care Foundation, Mobay City Run, Option Cosmetics, and Chucka. The 2019 National Tourism Debate is endorsed by the Ministry of Education, the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association. When we return, we will welcome our final match of the semifinals for the 2019 National Tourism Debate, Ocherez High School versus Charlemont High. We'll be right back.
Grab a copy for news you can use. Jamaica Observer, Everyday Matters.
Welcome back. Our judges this evening are Chief Judge, Attorney at Law, Stacey Ann Williams, Marlene Hacker, Entrepreneur, and Janice Allen, Managing Director of Forge Consulting Limited. Our moot this evening: all-inclusive resorts are not beneficial to the tourism industry. Proposing the moot is Ocherez High School. Opposing the moot is Charlemont. Our speakers this evening are Ocherez High School, Ronaldo Morris, Thais Miller, and Javon Hunter. And from Charlemont, Kiara Wilson, Tajari Rose, and Tiana McCoy. The first speaker is allowed 7 minutes. The second speaker, 5 minutes. The third speaker, 3 minutes. Followed by rebuttal, which will begin with the opposing team. The match will begin with our proposing team, Ocherez High School. May I have a round of applause for them?
Members of the audience, members of the proposing team, members of the opposition, a pleasant evening to you all. All-inclusive resorts are not beneficial to the tourism industry. Indeed, I, the Prime Minister, on side proposition, will be looking at today the current status quo of the high rates of leakages and the little to no growth stimulus which all-inclusive resorts perpetuate. I will also look into the wider tourism industry and its link to the economy, the negative effects on GDP, GNP, as well as the negative effects they have on the overall industry. My second speaker will look at how all-inclusive resorts stifle the growth of other entities within the tourism industry. And my third speaker will look at measures to address all-inclusive resorts to make them economically inclusive venture. Now, Mr. Speaker, the tourism industry, by definition, is a conglomerate of enterprises that not only deals with tourists coming into a country, but it encompasses multifaceted dimensions of a country's growth, as it provides goods or services to facilitate business, pleasure, leisure from the home environment. Simply put, the tourism industry has an effect on every single aspect of economic development and growth in a country such as Jamaica. Which brings me to my first point. The mammoth problem all-inclusive resorts have faced and have attempted to sweep under the rug, Mr. Speaker, but old-time people would say, when belly get this big, you can't hide it. Mr. Speaker, the belly I speak about is leakage. It is, of course, a big phenomenon. Leakage is the unwanted leaving of money from a country as a result of taxes, wages, imports, and profits that are paid outside the country. The leakage rate for all-inclusive resorts in Jamaica is estimated to be relatively higher than that of other countries, Mr. Speaker, according to the United Nations Environmental Planning Council. Further evidence, Mr. Speaker, a study conducted by the said organization, the United Nations Environmental Planning Council, in most all-inclusive resort package tours rather, about 80%, Mr. Speaker, I must reiterate, 80% of the travelers' expenditure go to airlines, hotels, other international companies, and guess what? Not to the local businesses or to the workers. This, as the host country, will only receive 20%, Mr. Speaker. Now, will you look at that? Now, this may be irrational, this may be reasonable rather, in the world of a madman, but certainly not in our sphere, Mr. Speaker, and the proposition does not accept this. The rationale behind this absurd proposition, which has been perpetuated over the years, is that for each $100 spent, Mr. Speaker, the host country will only receive $20 from that $100, Mr. Speaker, which is at 20%, Mr. Speaker. This is a national disgrace. This is an economic rape, and it is a fiscal shambles, Mr. Speaker. However, I am the driver, and as government, Mr. Speaker, we will steer all-inclusive resorts on a path to solidarity, Mr. Speaker, economic development and growth, as my third speaker will look into measures to deal with and to bring and turn our woes into wonders. However, if your right hand offend you, cut it off. But we will not be doing any cutting today, Mr. Speaker, so the opposition need not fret themselves. Our position today as government, rather, is to strategically bring to this nation, Mr. Speaker, the shambles which has been happening and put it into focus, Mr. Speaker, as it relates to all-inclusive resorts. In Jamaica, all-inclusive resorts have been unable to maximize on the tourism industry, neither find long-term solutions to improve Jamaica's standard of living. Mr. Speaker, we are not saying that all-inclusive resorts are responsible for alleviating poverty or for solely increasing the standard of living, but we are saying that they take the largest market share of our most profitable industry. And if it is that we are only receiving 20% of that market share, Mr. Speaker, that is utterly unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, this 20% has to be shared amongst those persons, your father or your uncle who drives a Jupiter tour bus. It has to be shared amongst your family who works at the airport, your cousin or whomever, simply because of the way they operate. Microcosms within a microeconomy, giving the impression of all-inclusiveness to the tourists, of course, but Mr. Speaker, development is all in. As the name suggests, the development and the profits remain all within the resort, Mr. Speaker. A microcosm within an economy, Mr. Speaker, enunciating and using up resources, Mr. Speaker, but then 80% of those profits do not stay within the country, and this is unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. But the opposition may come after me today, Mr. Speaker, and argue that all is well. But let me pull an omen, Mr. Speaker, and let me preempt that they will argue that all is satisfying and all is well. And we are not against all-inclusive resorts, Mr. Speaker, as they do provide benefits to tourists, Mr. Speaker. But we are speaking on the basis of economic development, Mr. Speaker. Speaking on the matter of satisfying how workers are paid, which significantly affects GDP and affects inflation, is certainly not satisfying, Mr. Speaker. The profits made are within resorts. Therefore, there is an imbalance in the economies of scale. This is certainly not satisfying, Mr. Speaker. Which brings us over to the trade deficit of importing goods, materials, and guess what? Even services. We have an employment problem, but at the same time, some of these all-inclusive resorts are importing persons to work within these resorts, Mr. Speaker. This is certainly not satisfying, Mr. Speaker. And I dare go a step further in my omen. As the opposition may come and argue, Mr. Speaker, that all-inclusive resorts provide a safe haven, Mr. Speaker, for tourists, Mr. Speaker. But we dare say, and we point to recent incidents, where even in all-inclusive resorts, there are dangers to tourists, Mr. Speaker. And we therefore rubbish this argument before the opposition even gets to scourge it out. Mr. Speaker, we also must look at the fact that all-inclusive resorts over the years have taken advantage, not at this time, have taken advantage, Mr. Speaker, of a tax break system which was put in place, Mr. Speaker, which they have come in, set up, Mr. Speaker, take advantage of the 5-year or 10-year tax break, and at the end of this period, they shut down for quote-unquote refurbishment. Then there's another business person coming in to set up, Mr. Speaker, and again abusing the tax break system and raping our economy, Mr. Speaker. A fiscal shamble. We must also look at, Mr. Speaker, the ownership. The majority of these resorts are owned by either Mexicans or Spanish persons, not accepted. Mexicans or Spanish persons, Mr. Speaker. If I recall, only 2 established all-inclusive resorts, Mr. Speaker, are owned by established Jamaicans, which is contributing back to the economy. So you tell me now, $20, 20%. For a population of 2.odd million, Mr. Speaker. And this is our main source of economic growth and stimulus. Unacceptable. The proposition raised.
Madam Speaker, government, members of the House, good afternoon. It is an honor to rise in this esteemed house to speak on the Moot. All-inclusive resorts are not beneficial to the tourism industry. First, we must define the terms all-inclusive, resort, beneficial, and tourism industry. According to Lisa Chambers of the Rochester Institute of Technology, an analysis in the characteristic to differentiate all-inclusive hotels and island destinations in the Caribbean, all-inclusive can be defined as any hotel that may have an all-inclusive package to include meals, beverages, comfortable accommodation, caring staff, and plenty of accessible activities for all the guests or only segment of the guests. According to Cambridge Dictionary, resort is a place where many people go for rest, sport, or any other stated purpose, and beneficial is helpful, useful, and good. The tourism industry referred to by the motion is the tourism industry of Jamaica. We can then restate the motion and our position to read that any hotel that has an all-inclusive package is helpful and useful to the tourism industry of Jamaica. Madam Speaker, it is prudent that we understand that the all-inclusive resort is not a specific number of hotels, but it is a model, a concept that is used by many hotels in Jamaica, especially the larger ones. The debate, therefore, takes a much broader tone to look at how beneficial this model has been to the tourism in Jamaica. Madam Speaker, I ask you to avoid the urge to only see the negatives. While not perfect, all-inclusive model has and is helpful, useful, and is growing and causing the industry and the country to grow. My deputy opposition leader will be addressing the benefits of all-inclusive resorts, tourists, locally and internationally, and the idea that all-inclusive does not also mean all-exclusive. My opposition government member will be looking at the reason Jamaica tourism industry has been forced to rely on this model. The opposition stands with solidarity in saying that all-inclusive resorts are in fact beneficial to the tourism industry. Madam Speaker, the tourism industry is one of the most important earners of foreign exchange in Jamaica. This beautiful land holds a total of over 19 all-inclusive hotels with dots or coasts, hosting millions of tourists per year, according to TripAdvisor.com. In the Jamaica Annual Statistics of 2017 states, all-inclusive resorts sold a whopping 5 million rooms, while non-all-inclusive resorts sold a mere 300,000. Edmund Bartlett, the Minister of Tourism, posited in the Jamaica Observer dated February 18, 2018, entitled "Tourism, a Strong Pillar for Economic Growth," is much broader tone to growth. We welcome 2.3 million visitors to our shores, breaking the record performance of 2017. Tourism in Jamaica has impacted heavily on the government revenue. Due to the travel industry and the vibrancy of tourism in Jamaica, there has been a great increase in foreign exchange receipt into the country. Madam Speaker and members of the House, let us do the math. The Jamaican government has a travel tax of $35 per person for a departure from the island and $20 per landing fee. Times this $55 by the 3.5 million visitors in 2018, the government earned a total of $236.5 million only from traveling. If we consider then that all-inclusive resorts occupy at least 60% of these visitors, we can estimate that the all-inclusive models contribute at least $130 million in travel tax revenue. Moving on to accommodation. Due to their compelling rates, all-inclusive resorts sold 5 million rooms in 2017, and 2018 is projected to be another record-breaking performance for visitors. That means Jamaica could easily sold 600 rooms. The accommodation tax is charged per person per letting on all occupied guests based on the size of the property. This means, Madam Speaker, that all-inclusive resorts contribute approximately $24 million in tax to the government annually. In a JIS news article by Chris Patterson dated September 5, 2018, entitled 2.95 million tourists between January and August, states Jamaica is well ahead of the US $3 billion mark for the end of this calendar year.
Point of information.
Accepted.
We must point out to the right honorable lady that taxes are a must under the Constitution, but we are talking about economic benefits under the economies of scale and the industry.
I will be heading to that shortly. A significant portion of the results of all-inclusive model, if we continue with these robust arrival figures to year end, then for the third consecutive years, the growth of Jamaica's tourism sector would have exceeded the projected 5% annual growth, which, let's not forget that most of these tourists are staying at the all-inclusive hotels. Less all-inclusive means less visitors, which equals to less economic benefits. The fact of the matter is that visitors are not forced to go to these hotels, they choose to go. Madam Speaker, the government will argue that all the money earned from the largest all-inclusive resorts do not stay in the country. That means it's mostly owned by foreigners. While we recognize the changes this poses, Jamaica is above average in the dollar retention in the Caribbean. The average rate of retention in the Caribbean is 20%. However, Jamaica is at 30%. The Minister of Tourism argues that not even the bauxite industry gives us 30% retention. And I would ask the government the question, how many non-all-inclusive hotels are owned by foreigners? Most resorts in Jamaica are not owned by locals, not just the all-inclusive, but why stop there? Let's look at Digicel. What about Flow? What about with Dalco? This is an issue which is not unique to the all-inclusive hotels, and it is a trend that the government must address on a national level. The government simply has to do more to increase retention benefits from the sector through tighter regulations. I thank you.
All-inclusive hotels are all over the world. Some are better and bigger than biggest in the Jamaica. Jamaica tourist product is larger than all-inclusive hotels. Mr. Speaker, Jamaica tourism product involves a cultural experience that visitors get when they visit our beautiful island. It involves walking and feeling the sand between your toes and the white sand beaches in the grill. It involves driving through the lush green pastures of Fern Gully and Holland Bamboo. It involves going on the mountainside of Lover's Leap or climbing the world we know Blue Mountain. It involves interacting with the craft members and various craft workers across our island, tasting our Jamaican jerk pork, interacting with our people, hearing our patois, experience the Jamaica culture. I could go on and on and on, Mr. Speaker. My opponents, Jamaica tourism product is a brand, a unique brand that have kept many coming over and over again. Madam Speaker, honorable judges, my learned opponents, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to you all. Due to the aforementioned, I rise in support of my first speaker in opposing the moot that all-inclusive resorts are not beneficial to the tourism industry. In fact, I will show all-inclusive resorts stifle the Jamaica tourism product and reduce the spending power of tourists, which does not contribute to substantial tourism. In an article published on Sunday in the Sunday Gleaner, dated December 2, 2018, entitled All-Inclusive Hotels Uses Foreigners to Entertain Tourists, it gave the example of a man brought from the Bahamas to serve the purpose of singing reggae songs to the tourists. Can you imagine that, my opponents? Coming to Jamaica to hear Bob Marley's singing One Love, Redemption Song, Buffalo Soldier, and singing to the foreigners and not at locals, and being sung by the foreigners and not locals. On testimonials on the tourism website, Jamaica Tip Advisor by Corey Johnson from the United States said that, and I quote, all-inclusive hotels are quite far away from much of the attractions and nightlife. You are inside a resort most of the time, and you miss out of the cultural experience. Resort food is often Americanized, not accepted. Yes, Mr. Speaker, this is reality of all-inclusive hotel. It is devoid of the real Jamaican experience. You don't need to visit Jamaica to experience what all-inclusive hotel includes, Mr. Speaker. You can get it even better than other hotels in the world, but you cannot get it when you're outside of all-inclusive hotels that are a part of our tourism offering anywhere else in the world. This is what makes our tourism product unique and exciting. We cannot allow our tourism product to be stifled and eventually be wiped out. All-inclusive hotels, Madam Speaker, reduce the spending power of tourists, which makes it difficult for them to support other attractions, which is not good for sustainable tourism. One research done by Masika Kandu entitled The Economic Impact of All-Inclusive Resorts in Jamaica states that after a tourist pays for their all-inclusive resorts, their spending power of the island is significantly reduced or in non-existent as a result of 77% of visitors to all-inclusive resorts do not leave the property. As a result of this, Jamaica's tourism industry as a whole hardly benefit from the visit of tourism all-inclusive hotels. This has prompted Minister of Tourism, in Jamaica, Bartlett, to say that, and I quote, it's important as a country we understand that substantial tourism must mean inclusive growth that will expand economic benefits to the local population. The tourism industry must not only generate prosperity and wealth for large hotel owners, but also to preserve the national and cultural resources of the land. Mr. Speaker, in writing on the wall, the facts are clear. All-inclusive hotels stifle Jamaica tourism product at this expensive, which keep visitors on property, making them unable to support Jamaica extensive tourism. I don't have time, Mr. Speaker. Product which does not contribute to substantial tourism, such as all-inclusive hotels, are not beneficial to the tourism industry. I rest my case.
Madam Speaker, adjudicators, members of the government, members of the House, good afternoon. Planning a vacation is supposed to be exciting. The thought of leaving reality behind and anticipating all the new experiences waiting around the bend is often the best part of any trip. It's like a perfectly wrapped birthday gift, just begging to be opened. We, the opposition, believe that all-inclusive resorts are not beneficial to tourism. We, the opposition, believe that this is strongly disagree to this. All-inclusive resorts are beneficial to tourism because they are safer. There is a less and clear chance of incidents of harassment. It is a great value for your money, and there are no restrictions to participating in outside activities. The question is asked, with 5 million rooms bought, what type of tourists are attracted to the model of all-inclusive resorts? The answer, the one that wants to feel safe. The one with a family of 4 and is on a tight budget. The one that is interested in the sun, sea, and sand of the country. The government wants to say that this is a bad thing, but over 1 million visitors beg to differ. There is no crime in choosing this type of stay. It is important to note, the first point stated is that they are safer. And to be honest, some popular resorts are located in countries with civil unrest and high crime rates, but all-inclusive resorts have in-house professional security forces and controlled access around their properties, and the variety of activities included in all-inclusive resorts sometimes eliminate the need to venture outside the resort. Clearly, people like to know what the total cost of their trip is going to be when they're away. All-inclusive packages are cheaper and more practical for many visitors. And the fact that we keep 30 cents of every dollar they spent and 50% above the Caribbean average does wonder for the industry. And let us not discount the benefit that these types of venture provide and the opportunity for locals to enjoy their country in a way that is affordable and affordable cost that they can afford. The local communities and tourist market benefit as well. While not perfect, more and more hotels are producing and partnering with the local farmers, tour operators, and craft vendors to spread the wealth and exposure of the visitors more equitably. An article by the GIS entitled Sandals Resorts International Partners with Farmers, March 19, 2018, shows Sandals is leading the way in terms of strengthening the linkage between agriculture and tourism. This is not a phenomenon. As shown by an article in the Gleaner dated March 4, 2007, the title speaks for itself. 25 billion farmer bonanza, led by Sandals, local producers finding big hotel markets. With better regulations by the government, more sectors can capitalize on these big hotels as the benefits are numerous. A survey of 5 major resorts, Sandals, Rio, Zority, and the Grand Palladium, conducted by the opposition on March 15, 2019, found the following. All offer excursions into craft villages, markets, and special attractions in the communities. All employ and facilitate local craft at various times. All have brochures of local establishments in and around the community they inhabit. One even has a map in the guest room. All hire and promote local entertainers and entertainment. What the government should do is strengthen and promote these partnerships so that the industry can grow even further. What evidence can the government provide that our culture is not being promoted in these resorts? What are the statistics that shows that the locals are not enjoying their country and taking the food out of the mouth of the local businesses? Visitors' excursions from the hotels are indeed low. And we would want to see that changed. But this is a choice the visitors must make and has a right to make. Why would you take this from them? Their choice will not change until the government can change the image of Jamaica in the international community. Any reduction to all-inclusive model at this time will result in lower visitor arrivals and drastically hurt the industry. The all-inclusive resort should not be seen as the enemy, but as a necessary part of Jamaica's overall tourism package. The government should try to boost the market and the other areas of industries more so that they are not competing with, but rather function in synergy with all-inclusive resorts. If we are to believe the government and say that all-inclusive resorts are more hurtful than they are helpful and useful, then the reduction of this type of package would have no adverse effects. No one in this room believes this. Not perfect, yes, but useful and helpful on all levels. I end with the idea, Madam Speaker, that it is not that all-inclusive resorts are beneficial, but we are not fully taking advantage of the benefits. I thank you.
What an exciting match. We're in our semi-final round. If you're just tuning in, it's Ocherous High School versus Charlemont. When we return, the third speakers along with the rebuttal. It's the semi-finals of the 2019 National Tourism Debate. Welcome back to the 2019 National Tourism Debate. Our moot question for this evening: all-inclusive resorts are not beneficial to the tourism industry. We will now hear from our third speakers.
Panel of adjudicators, members of the proposition and opposition team, members of the audience, good evening to you all. Before I go into my speech, here is a brief summary of what my teammates spoke about. My first speaker elaborated on the grave economic effects all-inclusive resorts are having on the tourism industry due to overseas ownership, which leads to leakage. The second speaker delved into how all-inclusive resorts stifle the growth of the other entities in the tourism industry as well as. As the third speaker, I will strengthen the proposition foundation by looking at measures the tourism industry can put in place so all-inclusive resources are more beneficial to the industry. Firstly, we propose that Minister of Tourism works on a legislation to reduce the tax holiday given to these resorts. Currently, these resorts enjoy a 5-year tax holiday, which was reduced from 10 years not long ago. Can you imagine your parents on a tax holiday for 5 or 10 years? Now imagine one all-inclusive resort being on a tax holiday, I see dollars. Then imagine all the all-inclusive resorts being on a tax holiday. Do you see a lot of dollar signs? Not only that, but along with this, there's an omnibus incentive framework. According to the Jampo Trade and Investment website, under this framework, hotels receive reduced GCT rate of 10%. 2. Relief from capital allowance on tangible items including industrial buildings, duty-free importation of equipment and machinery, as well as a revised tariff rate and relief from income tax to certain overseas lenders who fund reports. 4. Productive import relief. This provides for duty-free importation of certain hotels industry-related items that would have normally attract customer duties and the additional stamp duties when they are being purchased for productive use. Madam Speaker, the opposition needs to realize that these resorts are milking our country. They are on a long all-inclusive tax vacation in our country. Let me ask you a question. In the last decade, how often do you see an all-inclusive closing down in the name of refurbishing? My opponent? Let me enlighten you after their profit tax vacation, them just shut down and move out. Shut down, rename, and apply for a new tax holiday. Now, how is this beneficial to the tourism industry when the industry is just a scapegoat for these resorts? We therefore propose that the tourism industry look at a 10 or 20 years tax package. However, tax holiday should only be offered every other year. This will limit the resorts just using our climate, culture, landscape. The tax collected can go to the tourism enhancement fund to help develop crab markets and other historical sites. My opponent, don't worry, if these resorts did not pull out of Jamaica when the tax holiday moved from 10 to 5 years, then they are not going to do so now. Up to the blind can see how much they are robbing us. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, this does not only hurt the industry, but country as we are heavily in debt. Additionally, according to the IMF report, this reality of tax concession cannot continue indefinitely and must be addressed by the government expeditiously. Madam Speaker, another solution that we propose, which stemmed from my second speaker discussed, is the fact that there needs to be legislation that make it mandatory for all-inclusive resorts to add a visit to a local craft and a tourism attraction part of their package. Yes, my opponents, our decks for each attraction is located at the different resorts, but after you spend so much for all-inclusive lifestyle for a week, how many would still have money to go out and be a part of the real Jamaica experience? This will benefit the industry greatly, as tourists visiting the craft markets and tourist attractions will help to sell brand Jamaica, and it will also aid in providing more revenues for the country. Madam Speaker, members of the opposition, members of the audience, we need to practice sustainable tourism for the growth and development for the tourism industry, and by extension, the company. In closing, help me big up Jamaica, the land of food and water. The system might not proper, but we love the vibe, the food, and our culture, the beauty of our country. Proposition rests.
All protocols observed, good afternoon. The opposition minister highlighted the economic benefits of all-inclusive hotels to the country, and the deputy opposition minister highlighted how all-inclusive hotels are beneficial to the tourists and helps the local economy. I will now expound on why the all-inclusive model works in Jamaica. Jamaica is a paradise, but our image is often marred by the view that Jamaica has a major crime problem. Many would-be travelers who read of the country's high crime and murder rates are not enthusiastic about walking Jamaica's street. Many visitors prefer to avoid potential danger, as safety is just as important as leisure. The all-inclusive model acts as the industry's alternative and saving grace in providing a safer place for visitors to stay, and as opposed to finding another destination. Madam Speaker, the general perception of the international community is that Jamaica is full of crime, and all-inclusive hotels are safe. Furthermore, in an article entitled, "The Negative Impacts of All-Inclusive Hotels," an online survey was conducted by a tourism concerned organization, found that less than 20% of respondents that had been at an all-inclusive vacation rarely left the resort to patronize local businesses because they felt it was safer. Doesn't this reinforce the idea that all-inclusive hotels are beneficial? Furthermore, in an article entitled "The Precarious Balancing Act Facing Jamaica," dated October 22, 2018, there is also a fear factor at play. Well-published stories of violent crime in Jamaica and warnings of potential dangers for tourists have further embedded this inclination for visitors to explore the country. The article also says that much of the industry has developed an inclusive model, reflecting issues with crime and tourist harassment outside of the resorts. This goes to show that all-inclusive hotels are necessary in Jamaica because of the increased crime rates. And until we solve the issue of crime, all-inclusive hotels will continue to be beneficial to the industry. In addition, in an article entitled 10
10 reasons to book an all-inclusive hotel, dated September 20, 2018, states that all-inclusive hotels are safer, and this was point number 4. Moreover, the following are articles that tourists should read when they do a general survey on the internet for Jamaica as a tourist destination. Jamaica, the third most dangerous place for female tourists. Forbes magazine, dated August 2017. How to stay safe and secure on a Jamaican vacation, December 2018. 9 popular tourist destinations with surprisingly high murder rates, February 2016. My opponent, guess who's at number 1? I quote from that same article. The U.S. State Department is telling their citizens that crime, including violent crime, is a serious problem in Jamaica, especially in Kingston, Montego Bay, and other tourist areas. While the majority of crime occurs in impoverished areas, random acts of violence, such as gunfire, occur anywhere. The primary criminal concern for tourists is becoming a victim of theft. Madam Speaker, if it wasn't for the all-inclusive hotels, we would not even be getting as much tourists as we are due to the high crime rates. Can you imagine losing 50% of the tourists visiting Jamaica? And can you imagine what kind of impact it would have on the economy of Jamaica?
On that point.
Not accepted. And economy of Jamaica. And see that tourism generates the second highest revenue in the island? Madam Speaker, until the government of Jamaica implements sustainable plans to alleviate the crime problems, all-inclusive hotels are the best option. The opposition rests.
You've knocked on doors, sent out emails, dropped off resumes by the dozen, scoured the classifieds, made cold calls. You've tried everything and not even a job interview. But have you tried Recruiting Panda? The online recruitment platform that connects you to more jobs. Recruiting Panda, where you post your resume and employers come to you. So if you're looking for a job, get less stress and more success with recruitingpanda.com.
You are watching the 2019 National Tourism Debate. We will now have the rebuttals, beginning with the opposing team, Charlie Montaigne.
Good afternoon again. The government stressed that the money is not staying in the country. However, the opposition stresses that this is complete rubbish. If they are on a tax holiday, please explain the 8.6% increase. Please explain why the Caribbean is at 20% retention and Jamaica is at 30%. Furthermore, you emphasize that the safety of the isolation situation of the crime in the all-inclusive hotels. Do you have any evidence that this is not happening in non-all-inclusive hotels and not being reported? Do you have the evidence? I don't think so. I will emphasize that the US government is warning citizens about the crime rate in Jamaica, so not to visit. So opposition gives you 2 choices. Fix the crime rate in Jamaica overnight, then expand the non-all-inclusive brand in the same breath, reduce in revenue. Or continue to depend on the all-inclusive brand and collect or above average retention. All-inclusive resorts are furthermore not prisons. Furthermore, tourists choose to go there and they have the choice of leaving on excursions if they wish. Yes, more can be done. However, until then, with the revenue that the all-inclusive resorts are raking in the country, the government is in no position to say that all-inclusive resorts are not beneficial to the tourism industry. And again, you say that the all-inclusive resorts are not partnering with locals. However, Sanders has taken the steps in partnership with farmers, and even the research conducted by the opposition also states that many all-inclusive resorts are having locals on the compound to help to expand their businesses, and the opposition rates.
Madam Speaker, an absurd proposition from the Right Honourable Leader. In fact, Mr. Speaker, tourism is in fact a linkage industry. And you have sought and you have attempted to mislead this Honourable House, but the driver is here to bring you back on course. Madam Speaker, we outlined strongly that the links and the linkages within the tourist industry need to be strengthened. We did not say that there are none, and in your attempt to mislead this Honourable House, it is mischievous. Mr. Speaker, the opposition has sought to come and paint this image of keeping up with appearances. But we, the government, with I, the Prime Minister as the driver, have gave you real economic growth terms, Mr. Speaker, and how the industry affects our economic growth and sustenance, Mr. Speaker. Where is the benefit to the economy, Mr. Speaker? The opposition only spoke about benefits to the tourists. We are not arguing about the beauty and the immense. Look at this place we're in. I am not arguing the beauty of all-inclusive resorts. But, Mr. Speaker, the opposition spoke about the safety of ladies. But we must bring to attention the economic rape being brought down on Jamaica, Mr. Speaker. When you have an industry in which 80% of the profits from an industry... No, Mr. Speaker, I'm upset. When you have an industry in which 80% of the profits are being leaked out of the country, and the opposition seem to have ignored this only for the benefit of tourists. Listen to me now. This is business, not pleasure. And take it into this understanding. We are not refuting that we must satisfy the tourists. Yes, that is a fact. They are our customers. But can we satisfy persons? Then we suffer, Mr. Speaker. I give you a prominent example. You have a visitor to your house and you give them the best piece of chicken, the best rice and the best vegetable. But when they are gone, what? Your kids have to eat bone and gravy. This is the grim image the opposition has painted to us. Their proposition is absurd and we do not accept it, Mr. Speaker. It does not point out in any way, any formula, shape, way or form to economic development and sustainable tourism, Mr. Speaker. 236 million in a $1 billion industry. Come on, Madam Opposition Leader, an absurd proposition. Mr. Speaker, the performance of the industry is not only due to all-inclusive resorts. They have seemed to mislead this Honourable House again into believing that all-inclusive resorts are the only players in the industry market, quoting figures of 50% and I believe it was 5.6. Forgive me if I'm incorrect. But the figures quoted and saying that these are all, it is rubbish and it is refuted by the proposition, Mr. Speaker. Now, if they are saying that the all-inclusive resorts are perfect where they are, if they are saying that we don't need any mirror or we don't need any formulation of policies to address these things, Mr. Speaker, these are not people you can trust. Come on, Mr. Speaker. They made mention to the dollar retention within the market, but they have failed to outline to us, Mr. Speaker, that all-inclusive resorts are not the only players in the market, and this is a reiteration, not a refusal, Mr. Speaker. The opposition seem to have forgotten, Mr. Speaker. And I dare say to the second Prime Minister, you seem to have left the reality. Because you came here painting this Barney and Disney World image of tourism, when in fact we are talking about real business and economic retention. We are talking about the development of our country, Mr. Speaker. Now, keeping everything within the resorts, and you dare come here and lecture me on equity. Mr. Speaker, when we hear and we give you a proposition on sustainable tourism and sustainable growth, and you would dare come here and attempt to lecture me on equitability. Mr. Speaker, we agree with Second Speaker that we are not taking advantage of all the benefits to the tourism industry as he so strongly outlined. We agree, and which is why we have put forward suggestions and policy framework to enhance, Mr. Speaker. Now, this 80-20 thing is just bugging at my mind and getting me really upset, you know. Because when we have an economic condition where you are telling me that we are only getting 20% of the earnings, Mr. Speaker, where tourism is our main economic driver. Come on, Mr. Speaker, where will we be in 10-15 years? Then Vision 2030 will be in shambles. Mr. Speaker, The third speaker on side opposition has attempted to paint this grim image of what tourism is, Mr. Speaker. I can tell you for a fact. I am from Ocho-Rios, Mr. Speaker, where we consider the tourism capital of Jamaica. I know Montegonians may want to argue this, but we are here for a different debate today. However, Mr. Speaker, we must say to you that the absurd proposition put forward by them, Mr. Speaker, tourists walk free on the streets. Tourists are not bombarded, Mr. Speaker. Tourists are protected because we understand that they are a source of economic growth and they are a source of stimulus to GDP, GNP, and of course our inflation and our economy. Mr. Speaker, she made this assumption, and I must bring Mr. Nolan out. Imagine losing 50%. Imagine losing the 80% that we are perpetrating with it over the years. Economic rape, and we cry shame on the opposition.
What a well-fought match. I am seeing a number of tourism ministers and directors of tourism here this evening. Let's give them another big round of applause. I now invite our Chief Judge, Stacey Ann Williams, to announce the results of the winning team.
This doesn't happen to me very often, but I have no words. I mean, I was there and I was listening to the rebuttal, and I believe Ronaldo got started at the rebuttal. It was just awesome. He threw himself in there and it was wonderful. Very good. Give yourselves. Overall, it was a very exciting match. I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. Speakers were good, clear, much better. There are a few points that I need to highlight though. There was still a lot of reading, so we need to pay attention to that. Try not to rush through what you're saying. When you rush, we lose some of your content. So try not to rush. Also, it's not about shouting. Your tone and your pitch should match what it is that you're trying to get across. So try not to shout. Pay attention to your gestures. Our hands are very useful when we're presenting. However, sometimes they tend to block our face. So we have to be careful and pay attention to that. Let me just see if there's anything that I am leaving out. Oh, also, when a point of information is made, you cannot shout over the point of information. You need to acknowledge it, and it's either you're accepting it or you're not accepting it. And then you move on so that it doesn't distract you. All right? That said, again, it was a wonderful match. Very exciting, very good, well-researched. The winning team this evening, well, before I tell you the winning team, the best speaker this evening is Tajari Rose. I hope I pronounced it properly. And the winning school is Charlie Montana. Thank you.
Congratulations to our winners, Charlie Montana. They will now advance to our finals. We thank you for watching the 2019 National Tourism Debate. We want to thank our judges, our sponsors, who all made this possible. I'm your host, Janet Silvera.